Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and thanks for tuning in to the Dealer Insights podcast, where we go under the hood, bumper to bumper, and just about everywhere in between, discussing topics important to dealers of all types and sizes. Your time is valuable, so thanks for riding along for this episode of Dealer Insights.
Welcome back. It's episode 2. Vinny, how are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you, Sean?
I'm doing great. Hey, we have had some conversations outside of the podcast recently, and I want to spend some time today really kind of hearing from you and your thoughts around let's just call it the life cycle of a customer. And your business, really from the time, even before you started your own company, the business that you've been in has been all around that life cycle of a customer relative to the dealership, like the whole thing. But I'm not sure that a lot of dealers and a lot of people in the car business think of it that way, because we, as you know, we get pretty down the rabbit hole with acronyms and, you know, what do all these things mean? And you had mentioned one to me where I was like, CLC. What is CLC? So let me just open the episode with talk to me about what is CLC. Where is this coming from?
Yeah, great. So it's a good segue to our conversation here. So I've always had a vision of customer communications, right? So it starts with a lead. Every business starts with a lead. That could be a walk-in customer. I consider that to be a lead. That could be a phone call. That was the second type of lead. As you and I talked on our last episode, the fax was a means of leads for a short period of time.
Yeah.
Then the internet, sprung and started providing these ADF automotive dealer format leads, and they figured out how to get these leads into the dealer's CRM, which was also a new idea. And we just started figuring out, okay, this is way better than waiting for a customer to walk in, right? We can sell them something. It's better than calling out of the phone book. It's better than standing at, handing out your card at the grocery store. This is a new form of prospecting, right? So I started looking at the internet, blah, 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 marketing. How do I get more traffic to my website? How does it convert? Because I like these leads. It was so much, I always tell a story about, like, when I was a kid, I was always good in school, but some classes just didn't interest me, so I didn't do well. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe, I think everybody's different, Not everybody just wants to sit there and study anything just to get an A. Like, if it was interesting to me, I was in on it. And so I got shown Yahoo by a professor one time, and I was like, wow, that's freaking awesome. And I
wonder if you were like me. I had a lot of teachers that were like, you know what, if you would apply yourself even more, you would be astonished at how well, because
it's funny. I tell my son
on board, but yeah.
My son wants to go to business school, and he wants to go to UNH, and one of the requirements is AP statistics. So I told him, like, believe it or not, Jake, I can help you with that, because, like, that's my thing. Stats, data, probability, looking at different ways of, because it's all shortcuts to me, data is shortcuts. It helps me take shortcuts, so he's taking AP statistics, because it's a requirement at UNH for their business school. And, I actually got a 4.0 in college in statistics and was asked to tutor it. It's just numbers I always liked numbers, right? Like, but I didn't like algorithms and long, equations and things, but I liked the idea that data can help me understand. It's like a scoreboard, right? So anyway.
For as long as I've known you, that is absolutely a true statement.
Yeah.
Your numbers, you love the numbers. Let's get into the numbers. What does the data tell us?
It's like cheating, Sean.
Yeah.
It's like cheating. Yeah. If I get enough data, people think that I'm really, really smart because I have answers. Yeah. And they're like, how did you know that? It's like, well, because I'm looking at the data. and it doesn't have to be, what the best part about data is? It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be in the ballpark.
Yeah.
You just have to get a good assumption of what's going on. You don't have to be exact,
Well,
And that,
as people say, data can be used. It's a double-edged sword, right? Data can be used to prove truth, and data can be used to manipulate people into making bad decisions, right? It's just one of those things. And you've always been.
I have a keen sense of looking at data and knowing if it's real or not, if someone's messed with it or if it's real. Anyway, so we got the lead part down. And then, as I mentioned also in our last episode, when you and I first met, I think it was like 2008, I remember leaving a digital dealer conference saying, you know what, all this data is sitting in the dealer's database and they're not doing anything with it. And then all of a sudden, Auto Alert and Automotive Masterminds and all these companies a few years later started popping up. I think there was some talk around customer data at the time. Then they went to social media and other things like that. But I never lost sight of the fact that the dealer has the capability of marketing to their own customers probably better than any of their ad agencies could ever do. But I always focused on the sales side of things because that's where it starts. To me, that's the core, right? I went to GM school. You learn service parts, financial statement. You learn new car sales, used car sales. But everything starts with a new car sale. You get a trade. That trade turns into service business. Now you're selling parts on that trade, right? The new car customer comes in for service, 60% margin in service, right? 50% margin on, or 42% margin on parts, right? Like, so there's only a 5% margin on new car sales or whatever, unless except for today where things
right.
But my point is,
money.
It's all self-serving business, right? Body shop self-serves. And the service departments, I used to laugh, like probably 10, 15 years ago, I used to laugh because they had budget for advertising and they very rarely spent it, or they would do a mailer to their customers, send a piece of mail. And now it's changed, as you mentioned. The fixed operations is becoming, marketing around fixed is becoming more and more, there's more technology, there's more ways of helping consumers and all that. But in my mind, it was always, okay, you start with the sale, you get the trade, what's next? Well, you want them to come to your service department. Well, first of all, you want to make sure they're happy after they bought their car. And that's why CSI was such a big thing for a lot of years. It still is, obviously, but there was a lot of pressure on dealers like 10 years ago or so. And I'm not sure that's the case as much today. But the CSI, did they like, and when you sell a car, you're supposed to show them service. You're supposed to ask and try and schedule their first appointment, but that very rarely happens. You also want a good survey, right? Because that manufacturer will come down on you if they think you're not a nice place to buy a vehicle. So you go from a new car sale, customer life cycle to me is the next step is call to make sure they were satisfied with their visit. And what Strolid has added to this is we're scheduling the first service. With that CSI call.
Yeah.
And that was something that a friend of mine who's a fixed director for a large group said, that's a home run, Vinny, if you can do that, because, dealers and OEMs are all about retention right now. I'm like, great.
Huge,
so we started doing that, and then it goes, all right, now the people that you didn't get through to or what have you, but you still left a voicemail and sent them an email, you get because one of the things about our outbound program is we do a call, maybe 1, 2, or 3, depending on what the dealer wants, but we also send an email and a text. So to me, that's a great form of branding. Yeah, you get in a call. Let's say we leave a voicemail, but then they get an email and an opt-in for a text, right? In some states, you can send a text without the opt-in, but I don't want to get too detailed on the information.
Yeah,
but
no, I get it.
But how many of those customers say, that they maybe didn't pick up the phone, but we explained the value of scheduling an appointment now and stuff like that. But anyway, that's where it all starts, is with the new car sale. It leads into CSI, and then you have inbound, right? Customers call in, as you know, from probably doing your presentation for the Toyota dealers you were mentioning. Dealers have trouble picking up the phone. It sounds simple. Yeah. And you know what's really amazing to me is every dealer has an online scheduling tool, but how few customers use it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think
it is. It's kind of astonishing. I mean, especially just with where technology has advanced us in the ability to quickly and easily communicate. I mean, it's kind of shocking.
I went to a Pep Boys a few months ago. I scheduled an appointment on their website, and I showed up for an oil change, and they're like, "Oh, sorry, it's like a 3-hour wait." I'm like, man, I scheduled an appointment, and they go, "Oh, that we don't even look at that. Don't use that anymore." Yeah, that's what they told me.
You gotta be kidding me.
21st century, Sean. We're still dealing with stuff like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you guys, I mean, you're taking this first step on the communication, first step in terms of getting that initial service appointment also scheduled. I mean, it makes more sense now when I think about you talking about the life cycle of the customer. This is like the beginning. I mean, that's essentially, do you see that like that? The beginning is that lead, that phone call, that first, but some people think the journey, I don't want to distract you from your thought here, but we've talked about this numerous times outside of podcast episodes, but there's this customer journey where people start to associate, well, they saw an advertisement in a magazine, they saw an advertisement on television, they saw a banner ad on some other site, and you start to aggregate all of these things that represent the attribution model, of how somebody became your customer, which we could break that down and have a long episode about that. But a lot of what you're talking about, if I'm understanding this right, and where your passion is and what your team absolutely changes, like turns the light on for the dealership, is the journey that begins once the customer engages. Like they've done all these things, they get to you, and then you're in the batter's box, to use the baseball analogy. Like you're going to get live pitching. And now what are you going to do? And what you guys are doing sounds like you're making sure that these guys are making base hits. They're putting people around the base path by actually picking up the phone when the dealer won't, or responding properly to somebody that filled out the form, or somebody that came in through Facebook Messenger. And is that where you guys see that's the beginning?
I say it starts with a lead, but it actually does start with a market presence, right? Mm-hmm. And making sure you're advertising in the right places and that people know who you are and know what your brand is and, trust you. But the dealers are local businesses, right? They're not, they need to really focus on their local market, not like with me, with my business, where we can sell to anyone, nationwide, right? In Canada. So it's a little harder to reach. But with a dealer, they want to reach their local customer base, and then they want to, it's kind of like you buy an iPhone, Sean, then you buy the case and the charger and all these other things, right? That's where Apple makes all their money. They don't make as much money on the phone as they do on all those accessories, and dealers don't make as much money on the car, but they make all the money on service and parts. Mm-hmm. And by the way, the customers need service and parts. The problem is a lot of them are going to Jiffy Lube, or as I mentioned, Pep Boys, or wherever to get their car serviced. And there's a lot to unpack with fixed because, some of the dealers have capacity issues. So they're not as worried about losing business because they're 2 weeks out on an appointment. But think about the customers you're potentially losing to some other dealership that maybe doesn't have those capacity issues or has a quick lane or is open on Saturdays and Sundays. And we try to share that information with our dealers. At the end of the day, it's your customer. And so by scheduling an appointment after the sale, if you're successful at that, what we let the customer know is how this will benefit you, Sean, is when in 6 months when your service is due, you'll have already scheduled appointment, so you won't need to call in. Our system sends, a lot of the scheduling tools will send an appointment confirmation, save it to your calendar, and next time, when service is up, and you can always cancel it, Sean, if you want. The idea is keeping them from calling you in 6 months and you saying, I got a week wait for an oil change or for a 15,000 mile service, and then they go to the other place. Trying to be a little bit more organized. And that's just the first step of the customer life cycle to me. What I'm really excited about with Strolid is that we can do all of this now.
Yeah.
And it took me years. We started as a sales BDC because we did sales BDC, and that's the most complicated part of the whole customer life cycle.
Yeah.
Just like it is for me to try to run a sales department in my own company.
Yeah.
Like getting people to follow up consistently and at the right times and to make sure they're working leads is really, really hard. But picking up the phone really isn't that hard to schedule a service appointment.
Yeah. Well, thought I'm having. Dealers spend a lot of money on advertising. I mean, a lot.
Yep.
Have been for decades now. This is all primarily focused on acquiring customers to buy a new or a used vehicle from them. If they're independent dealer, then they're
because it starts the cycle.
It starts the cycle. How do you guys kind of make that first step with a dealer that's like trying to figure out if they should do it differently? Like, because you guys really do offer almost a complete renovation of how their process should work and taking care of the customer and the sales process.
Right.
But when you're considering, working with somebody, because I know that you guys aren't just like, well, everybody is our exact customer. Some people are, some people aren't. But when a dealer, on the surface, is spending a lot of money in advertising, and they're like, hey, Vinny, I want to talk to you guys. What do you guys do to kind of go through some sort of qualification of like, can we help?
Question. Yeah. So I've had a lot of, so we know a lot of people, right? You and I, we've been in the car business a long time. So people know who I am, what I've done, my career and stuff. So a lot of times I get a lot of referrals, and I just had a sales training with my staff yesterday about this. It's, I can take somebody from an initial call to a deal, a close in the same day. But, we're dealing with a big group right now that has been very carefully kind of considering us, and they're taking their time to kind of think through the whole process. And I think it's great because if you know me, you trust me, and we know what we're doing. If you don't know me, the first thing we do is an analysis of your lead in lead handling process. We'll look at your templates, and we'll look at your workflows. We'll look at the mix of traffic you're getting from leads. Are you logging calls? What type of workflow? How many times you're following up? All that kind of stuff. And then we just give you an honest assessment. We don't, dealers ask me, like, why should I do business with you? And my answer always is, I'm not sure you should yet. Because we don't.
What you were just describing, that's something that would take a little time to be able to give a dealer that type of insight. Is that something that you guys charge them for?
No,
we do it for free. Okay. So if I'm a dealer and I'm like, hey, I'm spending X number of dollars advertising, but I don't like how my results look from how well we're taking care of all the opportunity that I know we're buying. So.
I'll take that. I can rewind a second. We don't do a really heavy dive into their ad spend and things like that, right? But
that's not what I'm saying though. But you do the dive into what is happening. What are the results of the ad spend? Whatever advertising in general is for traffic generation to get leads, whatever. What you're doing the analysis on is, okay, once you have the fish in the net, what are you doing with them, right? And how well are you doing? Okay.
Right.
You do that for free for a dealer just to find out if you guys should even be on the dance floor together.
100%. Yeah. And sometimes we look at it and go, sometimes we look at it and say, this is the right dealer for us. Sometimes we look at it and go,
yeah.
They don't do anything like process wise, so I'm not sure how we're going to fit into that. Like it can be a little painful for them and us, right?
Yeah.
Because my people are so used to dealing with like really good dealers that follow process and confirm appointments and really like they're tough on us, but they appreciate us. And we love that. We love
Yeah.
dealers that are engaged with us.
Yeah.
Dealers that just want some kind of quick fix, good luck. I would prefer you find another BDC vendor to work with, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because our goal is to help you improve your results. We want the same outcomes our dealers want, which is better results. And I don't need to worry about someone that thinks there's some magic pixie dust to getting quality results.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There's some technologies that help. We have a CTO now, and we build a lot of technologies. But at the end of the day, because we know there's a lot of stuff that is a waste of time.
Yeah. There is. Yeah.
To do.
Staying kind of focused is really almost the name of the game, right? Is like, don't drift too far away from your bullseye. And when you guys go through this evaluation process on behalf of a dealer, I mean, that's a very important step for a dealer to kind of understand, well, where it's benchmarking really. And I'm guessing that you guys...
My people are so good at the analyzation of it. I used to be the only one that does it. Yesterday, I had one of my dealers reach out to me and say, hey, listen, last couple of months, my lead to close ratio has dropped to like 5%. And, what's going on? Like, is there problems? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I was in the middle of a training, so I forwarded it to Derek, who's one of my directors. And I'm like, can you just kind of go through this with the managers and see if you can figure anything out? I'm telling you, like, within 10 minutes, he has a response back to me. Like, you wouldn't believe how detailed he was on exactly why this is happening. And the dealer had signed up for a third-party lead provider, which I won't name, but one of the great things about dealing with lots of dealers, Sean, is we get data on thousands of lead sources, so we know which ones aren't engaging with us. Like, for example,
that is, I think this is just me, but I mean, if I'm a dealer from the dealer world, there are plenty of businesses that could raise their hand and say, hey, we can help you out with how you're handling leads or your sales process. You could hire BDC sales training to come in and fix your dealership. But I've known this about your business for a while now, that you built a technology that also has an insights platform that I've always felt like, man, if I were a dealer, I'd want that, because it's the truth teller of my investment in, we won't name third-party lead companies because it's not about, making other people, the bad guy.
I mean, I wish some of them gave dealers good leads because it would make us look better.
Right. But you can do this. Your technology and your insights side of your technology will tell a dealer how many appointments got set, how many of them actually showed up, how many of them actually bought a vehicle. It breaks down all the what we might call the basic benchmarks across third-party leads. It'll tell you on organic traffic. It'll tell you on paid search, right? It does that in a lot of
phone calls. We can tell you how many phone calls you're getting on a monthly basis for sales. Yeah, and so what's interesting, Sean, is I'll have someone say to me, well, we're at 5%, right? Well, if you're getting 600 leads a month and 300 of them are from a third-party lead provider, that we're seeing about a 10% appointment set rate. There goes your results.
Yeah.
I mean, and if you look at the other 300 that came from your website, organic or the factory, whatever, and we're at a 40% appointment set rate, we're following the exact same process with every lead. So it's not that we don't like those leads. or you get the old school guys that are like, well, you got to do a better job at closing those. It's like,
is it possible that the average dealership doesn't execute the process exactly the same every time against all sources?
Yeah. And, I don't want to get too much on our sales BDC because, listen, I'm biased. I've been doing this for over 20 years. I don't feel like there's anyone, if you can outsource a BDC, I don't feel like there's any company out there that can match us. And I truly believe that. But what's exciting for me is this life cycle journey, because now that we got the hard part done, we're able to go and say, okay, what else can we do to add value to our dealers? Okay, the sales CSI call and the first service. Now they come in, they call in for service, we answer that call and schedule an appointment, right? Now we do a service CSI call and try and schedule the next appointment.
Mm-hmm.
Now we get a list of who didn't schedule an appointment with us, and we call them and offer them some type of coupon to come in for service.
Yeah.
Now we go, okay, now it's 2.5 years into their ownership of that car. Now we offer them a buyback, or, we do lease retention or things like that. And by the way, I left out like recalls. We can do those kinds of calls for dealers too. All focused on your customer.
Mm-hmm. So clearly,
you can't do any of that unless you do the lead part right.
Yeah. And so the life cycle's really kind of starting with a lead.
Right.
You guys, I mean, probably at this point, it's thousands of dealers. I cannot imagine how many leads it's been that you guys have personal experience on. That's pretty important, though, to break down. Do you guys find a lot of things once you start to engage with the dealer and you start working on behalf of them? Because you guys, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but your method of working with the dealer is really an extension of them, right? Mm-hmm. You're picking up the phone and you're handling all those things like them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
There's a lot of detail. There's a lot of detail in there, Sean, that I couldn't possibly tell you in an hour.
Yeah. My question here is more on, once you do get to that point and you're rolling with a dealer, what sorts of things are you guys finding that are kind of downfall relative to, maybe a lot of their traffic is not actually good traffic. It's low quality, or perhaps, their websites could be doing a better job for them. There's probably a bunch of things that you guys find like that I think is important.
Oh, yeah.
Can you share a little bit about those kind of discoveries that you guys follow?
Josh runs client success with me as Gus and Edwin. We'll be adding another person shortly because we are growing our service and outbound pretty rapidly. And frankly, someone needs to focus specifically on that stuff too. Mm-hmm. And obviously, we want great results for all of our dealers. The problem is we don't control their marketing. One of the reasons I've never partnered with a marketing agency, and a lot of them have approached us, and I'll take their referral, and if I think they're good, I will, let a dealer know, but I don't want to be the person selling their services, because I have to be, outcomes are what dealers want. And I can't possibly compromise my integrity if the company I recommend puts junior marketing guy on his account and he gets terrible results and I recommended them, then I'm going to kill my business. I'm like the traffic cop.
Yeah.
I got to make sure that what they're spending is actually working. And then that's what Josh's team does on a monthly basis and says, here are your results. And marketing agents, a lot of them hate us because we point out such stuff that's so obvious that they're not paying attention to, like their website, like the fact that they have no conversion tools on their website, like the fact that they have. I had a dealer recently cancel a search from a big agency because basically he was getting about 20,000 visits a month. I did analysis on his traffic. 20,000 visits a month. 4,000 of it was organic, it was all paid. Bounce rate was like super, super high, like 85% on the search traffic. The time on site was well under a minute. And I'm like, how much are you spending? He was like, I don't know, like $35,000 a month.
Wow. See, you said something just.
And I'm like, oh my God. Well, let's take 20,000 away from them.
Yeah.
Right? And try and use it towards like SEO maybe. How about that? How about create some content? How about do more, in your community? How about maybe looking at some tools that help your site convert better?
Yes.
I mean, like, what the heck?
And he doesn't know.
And I felt bad. I felt bad for the dealer because he's a friend of mine. I'm like, he doesn't know. I almost felt like he was like, "Oh my God, is this really happening?" I'm like, "Yep."
Well, you've heard me say this before. I've always been, because I've, like you, I've been in it since the internet started in our industry, and I've watched so many dealers and made friends with so many dealers and have relationships with so many dealers that never wanted to admit it at the time. But the technology went so fast, the advancement of technology went so fast that it was hard for most of them to keep up with. And a lot of vendors have taken advantage of that. You said something a minute ago that if I was the ad agency, and instead of being like, oh, I can't stand these guys that are trying to, man, I would love it, because the ad agency needs somebody, right? The third party validation, if you will, to say, hey, we're doing all these amazing campaigns. We're sending you so much opportunity, whether it's organic or paid or our social media advertising, whatever we're doing for you, maybe a collection of things. They need somebody other than themselves to say, we're awesome. And it sounds like what you guys can do is validate whether or not something an agency is doing is actually working. And when I say working, it's not just delivering an opportunity. It's delivering high quality opportunities that are converting to sales at a good percentage, that more than an acceptable percentage. Yeah. If I were an agency and you guys could help me be that, and you're not me, you're literally third party validation to that, I'd be loving it. So all you agencies out there that are listening or watching this, you absolutely need somebody like that, because it's literally going to keep you engaged with the dealer, because it's proof, right? 100%. Some of you agencies out there are literally still taking screenshots out of Google's tools and putting them in PowerPoints and then converting those to PDFs and telling your dealer that's a legitimate report. No, it's garbage.
If you know how to read the data in your CRM, you don't need Google Analytics.
Yeah.
Are you getting, I can look at a dealer's lead volume from their website, their organic traffic, and know pretty much how much organic website traffic they're getting, roughly. And so my estimation on this dealer was you're probably getting around 6,000 visits to your website a month based on your lead volume. When I saw the Google Analytics report and it said 20,000 visits, and they were all like within seconds, I'm like, this can't be right. The conversion is like so small. How the hell? How much you spending? $35,000. I'm like, oh my God.
Ridiculous. So what do you guys do once the leads
That's
in?
Not uncommon, by the way.
Yeah, I'm sure it's
I see a lot of dealers
sad, but
spending. I went to a friend of mine's dealership who says, anyway, I'm not going to talk about why he doesn't want to do business with us yet, but he asked me to do him some favors, so I did, and I really can help him, and he's just so. I'm not going to go there, but he says to me, "Can you look at my traffic?" I'm like, "Yeah," and he's getting about 1,000 leads a month. 400 of them are good, and 600 of them are terrible. And 600 happen to come from one source that we know doesn't perform well. And he's like, yeah, but I sold 10 cars out of it. I'm like, okay, that's 0.5% closing ratio, right? He's like, yeah, but I wouldn't have sold those probably without them. I'm like, buddy, you have no cars in stock. Yeah, let's take a look at the 6 cars you sold. 3 of them were Siennas. I'm like, how hard is it to sell a Sienna right now? He's like, not hard at all.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, why are you spending this crazy money with this company to get leads on cars you don't need help selling? He's like, that makes too much sense.
Yeah. And
okay.
Now
maybe when you get 100 Siennas back in stock, you might want to buy leads from them, but. And by the way, one of them was from Rhode Island. We're in like New Hampshire. The guy came all the way from Rhode Island to buy one of his Siennas.
Well, and did it cost that dealer anything to execute a process against the 594 that didn't?
Sean,
buy a thing?
I feel bad actually. I'm gonna digress for a second because I'm laughing. It's like I feel like it's not right. I shouldn't make fun of these guys. I was one of them for a long time. I worked at. It's a hard job running a dealership. They have so many things to pay attention to. It's like, how do they know to look at that? So that's why I love what I do, is because I can help them. I can help them get the right outcomes, the outcomes that they're looking for. I don't want to make it look like by any means that dealers are dumb or anything like that, because that's definitely not my take.
I know that. You've sat in their seat. You get it.
Yeah,
That's why you want
I
to
did.
help. That's why you started doing what you're doing. I totally get that. So
Well, I know I
let
can
me,
help too.
yeah, yeah. Let me ask you this. So
And not just me, by the way. My team is better at this than I am now.
you got,
Thank
yeah,
God.
you
Because I wouldn't have
you
been able to keep up with everybody, you know?
you definitely have an A team for sure. I don't know anybody else doing what you're doing that has actually a stronger team and more experienced. I mean that to me, and you've heard me say this as a sidebar of like friendship conversations. I think experience is today one of the greatest differentiators. It's why I'm not afraid of some millennial taking over my job, or Gen Z, or whatever we call them. It's because none of them really have the gusto. They don't have the moxie. Maybe a few of them, but
Fortitude.
yeah, the fortitude, right? Like, take a few
Yeah.
shots and get up. Anyway, what happens after the lead? Like, you've got the lead, but then there's a lot that happens in what we call the customer relationship management, or the CRM tools.
So think about it,
What
Sean. What is
happens
your
there?
best lead? What's your best lead as a customer, as a business?
The source
Yeah.
directly from my website. If somebody went right to my website and engaged there, that's the best one. And it honestly, if they call from going to the website, if they call from the website, it's fantastic. Second to that would be somebody that wants to direct message me for my type of business right now.
Okay, and I apologize. I don't mean to be too in your face, but I disagree. Your best lead is people who know you. Referrals.
Oh, well, yeah, of course. Yeah. I'm answering it as like if somebody like approaches.
No, I know a lot of people think of leads differently than I do. A lot of people don't consider a walk-in a lead. I do. A lot of people don't consider a lead a phone call. I do. Or how about this? Someone that's made it through your customer life cycle that you've treated really well all the way through is now a repeat customer, which is your best lead. Why do you want to find new leads when you can just think about the money you could save in advertising if you did a customer lifecycle campaign properly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you retained your customer.
Spend on people you've never had versus how much do you not have to spend on keeping the people.
This is why I'm so excited about the customer lifecycle journey, right? Because I know, like, here's the problem with it. I know I'm not going to reach everybody.
Yeah.
But we can touch everybody.
Mm-hmm.
We can leave voicemails. We can send emails. Yes. Well, they call it touch points. So.
I know. You know me. I'm a goofball. I like to be funny.
Yes, you are. That's what I love about you. But yeah, the funny thing about that though is I knew when I asked people that, like, what's your best lead, they always start going, well, I think it's my website, and then Auto Trader or Cars, or they'll say something like that, and it's like, no, your best lead is your previous customer or your existing customers, right?
Yeah.
Your existing customers, people in your drive are your best customers. They already know you. You're not new to them. You don't have to explain yourself. Think about it this way, from my point of view as a business. I had to train this to my sales staff yesterday. The dealers we do business with right now are our best source of referrals. And guess what? They're the easiest ones to reach.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I tried to call a company that doesn't know me, they're not going to take my call most of the time. But if I call Joe at ABC Motors that we do business with, he's going to pick up the phone for me.
Yeah. So when you guys get when you capture somebody for a dealership that is new, you've got the lead. Doesn't matter what type of lead, phone call, form submission, messenger, whatever. What do you guys do? What starts in the life cycle there with the person? We got the lead, and now we have to have some types of communications going on, maybe to workflows. Yep. What do you guys do there that kind of helps, begin that customer life cycle journey, setting them up for somebody that, to your point, you just said, you want to keep them for life because they become obviously your most valuable asset.
Yeah, what we measure is engagement, right? So I learned a long time ago. So I was the phone guy a long time ago. And if I could get 6 out of 10 people to schedule an appointment with me for a sales call, I'm doing a good job. That's 60%. So remember I said that the bad lead source was 10%? Appointment set rate? What that doesn't tell me that we struck out 9 times. That tells me that we didn't reach 8 of those people, or 9 of those people, or 8 of those people, right? So we got a 50% appointment rate on the 2 people we reached. That's lousy, especially if you're texting, calling, emailing, texting, calling, emailing, calling, email out to 90 days, and they never engage.
Yeah.
Why would you spend money on those? I guess there is some value to every lead, right? Because if you believe that there's really a person behind those leads, which some of them I actually question if they're not just bots because they're such bad quality. But let's say they're real people behind it. At least you're sending some kind of message to them, right? That they're getting on a regular basis. So we set that up, that workflow. And on the sales side, we have 3 different versions or variations of our sales BDC. 2 of them came out of COVID because dealers just wanted someone to reach out to their customers, but they didn't want that long-term follow-up that we used to do for every lead. So we call that our essentials package. We're 24/7. We respond to their leads within 10 minutes or less, but it's a personalized response. It's not an automation. And I believe in personalization because a lot of customers ask questions on leads. And the last thing you want from a customer experience is to have a reply from a dealer that doesn't respond to your question. So our responses respond to anything we can do to personalize that first email out. And we have the technology to do that rapidly. So if dealers are like, oh yeah, how are you going to do that? The same dealer I was telling you about, I was helping. I said, listen, our slogan is we never miss a lead. And he goes, yeah, right, you're never going to miss a lead. I'm like, no, we don't miss a lead. He's like, yeah, you can't not miss a lead. I'm like, we don't miss a lead. The only way we're going to miss a lead is if it didn't come through the CRM for some reason. Because we now have APIs with eLead, Vin Solutions, Dealer Socket, soon to be Techion. There's a couple CRM companies out there. I'm just going to make a shameless plug. I'm not going to name their names that refuse to integrate with anyone because they think they got the keys to the castle, to the kingdom, and they think they can do everything themselves without any help, and they got all this great AI. BS. One of the great things about one of the great things about some of these CRM companies out there that do integrate is that they realize, hey, someone might actually come up with something better than me, and it won't take us 2 years to develop. They can just plug it in, and dealers can use it.
Yeah.
Is that an amazing concept, Sean? Instead of saying, stay away, you can't get in. So dealers, if you're listening to the podcast, beware of technologies that won't allow other companies to integrate, because you'll lose out on some really potentially good stuff.
Sidebar on this point, relative to this point is, I use a lot of different software, like all stuff, that you can find online. And I mean, I won't bore you with all these little tools that I use, but many of these platforms that I use have a long list of integration capabilities, right? Whether, I know the platform that you guys use for marketing automation, for email campaigns, for that platform has multiple points of integration. I use a project management tool for my teams called ClickUp. I love it. It's awesome. It integrates with so many different things, whether it's MailChimp for mail campaigns, right? And so when you say that there are companies in automotive that want this kind of closed door, walled garden, we've got it all figured out, no integrations, it blows my mind a little bit, because I feel like we're in an economy now and we're at a point of technology where it makes more sense to have an openness to integrations. I mean, I will give you one other example. Like during the pandemic, I own a small percentage of an e-commerce company that has an API integration directly with Google's ad platform. That Google wanted this company. We literally went through a non-disclosure agreement protected period to make sure that what our information could do, product information management essentially, integrated properly, that Google needed to figure those out with companies that had the type of technology that this company built. So when you say there's companies like, we got it all figured out, it really kind of blows my mind, because it seems like if you haven't gotten there yet, you're going to limit yourself. It's kind of arrogant, but arrogance.
I don't understand how they don't. Kind of we talked to the CEO at one company, and they said to us, we got so many OEM agreements, we're doing so many things that we don't even have time to integrate with you. And that's what API is for. So like, why wouldn't you, and my question was like, why wouldn't you develop an API? And they're like, well, we feel like BDCs are going to go away in the future, and we're trying to build our technology to like do it all for the dealers. Like, ugh. Okay, whatever. The fact of the matter is, you still need somebody to pick up the phone and call. Well, why can't you just work out of our CRM, and we can maybe build something where you can, no. That's not good for my business, right? Like, I can't scale that way. So whatever. It is what it is. They'll be crying, because there's going to be major shifts in technology, especially with all the customer compliance and customer security stuff coming, that they are going to be in trouble, because dealers are going to want all this new stuff to help them communicate to customers without getting into trouble and all this other stuff. And they're going to have to try and build it while other companies have it, or integrate with somebody that has it. And then they're going to lose clients because they can't deliver it fast enough.
Yeah, it's crazy. I would imagine, and you don't have to, share anything that's, proprietary or relationships that you want to keep, private. But I would imagine that you guys, as far as your existing integrations, API or other, that you guys are probably working with people across things that can be beneficial on both the sales and the service side, especially as you mentioned that you guys are really kind of the big tent organization around both sales interest and opportunity, but also around the service part of the business, which is huge, especially in the last couple of years. It's really, really big. But you can simply answer by, we're working with a bunch of people. But, there are some service-related tools out there that it wouldn't surprise me if you're not already, that you're working on some things there too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of them offer API, so and they're easy to plug into, and and they're helpful. I mean, I also have
customer experience a lot better, right?
Oh yeah, we have to use other technologies. We can't build everything. That's what makes me laugh about these CRM companies. Like, you just can't build. If you spend all your time building everything, when you're done, there's better stuff out there that you didn't build.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It cracks me up, actually, because these are supposed to be like these really smart, development guys. I think part of the problem is the person who owns these companies. I'm sure the tech guys in these companies would agree with me if they're really good. And it's guys who own it that are like, I got to keep all this business to myself.
Yeah, probably.
I want to walk everybody out. I want to do everything. I want to conquer the world.
Don't we all? So what happens? What's kind of the next step in terms of what happens next in the life cycle?
Right. Just to talk about that too, right? People can believe me or not, but my true intentions are to try to build technology to complement other technologies, not to replace them, and to do what's best for the dealer and to get the dealer the outcomes that they want. So we questioned the person that was charging the dealer $35,000 a month on search. I don't necessarily blame the company that was doing that to him, because that company got too big way too fast, and someone's probably greedy making money there. They're probably not. I don't think they intentionally want to rob customers, is what I'm saying. I just think they got people that, like, scaling my business is hard, Sean, because I want to make sure that when someone talks to one of my dealers that they're credible, that they know what they're talking about. That's why we try to grow people from within here. We don't hire very many people from outside, and we bring them up and we train them. And then the next step is to be a manager. And now you got to talk with dealers. And the next step is maybe a director, and yada, yada, yada. And it's so important because, and we've been growing slowly. We haven't grown really fast, because at the end of the day, if you grow too fast, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get a junior marketing guy out of college that they maybe gave 2 weeks of training to and said, just show them this bogus report every month that doesn't really say much.
I've seen way too many of those.
And then the dealer goes, okay, well, I guess you're doing something. Let's move on to the next thing. And then they need someone, like you mentioned, they need someone like you or I with the experience to go, woo, something wrong there, you know? But so I just want to kind of make sure I get this. In 2008, when I started thinking about dealers database, I actually have seen companies and have heard a lot of companies talk about customer lifecycle. You hear a lot of ad agencies talk about customer lifecycle. Mm-hmm. The one thing that none of them do is make calls or take calls. They're always talking about the marketing of it.
Yeah.
And never the work that needs to get done. And then I talk to lots of dealers who say, I would love for my salespeople to call and ask them how their service was and schedule another visit, but they can't get them to do that. The service writer's job is like a salesperson. They're there to sell in the drive, not to take phone calls while they have a paying customer in front of them that they have to go over an RO with and talk about work that needs to get done that they didn't know about and stuff like that. You know, so at the end of the day, the customer life cycle needs support, not just advertising, to talk about it. We talk about, we care about our customers and we want them for life and all this other stuff. But who's actually saying, hey, we really do care about you, Mr. Customer, and we want to know how your visit was. Mm-hmm. And then who's taking that? This is really a dealer principal, general manager, dealer principal, CEO kind of sale. Mm-hmm. Because you got to really understand, like, these things aren't happening and they all want it to happen. Just orchestrating it all to make it happen is really, really difficult. It was difficult for me. It took me 2.5 years to get it to the point where we can now promote it. You know, this didn't come overnight. This is something like, okay, let's start making some calls for dealers. Let's start taking some, you know, service calls for some dealers. Let's start building a portal. Let's make sure we're pulling the right data at the right time and making sure we're making the right calls at the right time and all that. It's mind-boggling how much work went into all of that, and how much money we spent building all that up.
And it's a pretty obvious point of importance. Why do you think that there's still such a miss? Why is it still so off? I mean, it's not a 1-year-old problem. It's not even like we've been trying to figure this out for 5 years. This is
because most dealers, so you take a small dealer that's like a family-owned, operated, one rooftop store. Mm-hmm. It would take somebody, you know, they're trying to make a profit. They're a small business. They're more concerned about the community. They're more concerned about the customer in the showroom, making sure they get the right amount of techs to service them, making sure their advertising is working, making sure their financial statement comes out every month and that they made a profit, making sure that, you know, they're hiring salespeople because they need them, managing inventory, managing, you know, their reputation online, right? And then, you know, okay, we got a CRM. Why do we need Vinny's company? We can just have somebody respond to all of those. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
And then, you know, they're just doing so much, man. They don't have time to really kind of do it. You know, we do it better. That's all. They don't. They try. And then you go to the smaller groups that have multiple rooftops. And by the way, there are some really phenomenally well-run BDCs out there, and there are probably a lot. I have trouble saying this because I'm not sure I believe it. I have yet to see it, but you could challenge me, dealers out there, if you want, where salespeople do this really well. And I'm not saying that some salespeople don't do it well. I'm saying overall, consistently doing it well. You know, and you could say that, I guess, about actually selling in the showroom as well, that they have some that do it really well and some that don't. I spent 2 weeks putting my sales training deck together for my team. it was the best 2 weeks I spent because it helped me remember a lot of fundamental things about selling. And selling today is much different than it was 30 years ago. It was much easier 30 years ago to sell. Today, I would recommend, if any young people are watching this, get a business degree if you want to be in sales, because you have to understand business. You have to understand data. You have to understand marketing. You got to understand how all this stuff works if you're going to have a conversation with a dealer and try and sell them on something.
Yeah.
You got to understand their business, and their business is very complex for this reason. My business is becoming complex. I'll tell you why in a second, but a dealer is running 4 businesses: sales, service, parts, and new car sales, used car sales, service, and parts. My business was only sales BDC for the first 6 years. It was easier to run than it is now. Now we're focusing on inbound service, on outbound campaigns, and that whole life cycle journey. And it's added a level of complexity to my business. And that's why it was smart, I think, of us to do it slowly, because if you do it too fast, you're gonna make more mistakes and upset dealers. But at the end of the day, you go from a small one rooftop to a 5-10 store rooftop to the big groups. And the advantage a small dealership has over the big groups is the big groups, they're making more decisions on financial decisions than they are on customer experience decisions, because, hey, and when I say that, it's no disrespect to the big groups. I mean, they look at a lot more data than an average dealership does, but they're very detached from the people in the company. So they say, hey, we want this brand, but by the time it gets down to the people that are doing the job, there's usually, disconnect. And some of the groups do a decent job at trying to do what we do. But this is all we do.
Yeah.
We don't worry. Like, think about a big group. That's one small piece of what they have to manage throughout their whole entire organization, is how lead handling is being handled. That's all we do. That's it. Yeah. We don't focus on anything else. So that's a huge advantage for us. The technology makes us a little bit better. But just to reiterate, Sean, you get the lead, you got the deal. Are they happy? Schedule this service. They call in for service. You schedule that service. They come in for service. Our CSI call, schedule their next service appointment. Call missed customers. Email, text. We then call recalls and other types of campaign calls. We can also do like certain lead sources for dealers that like Kelley Blue Book buying center leads. Anyone ever signs up as a buying center, they get overrun with leads. We can make those calls for them and send emails to those customers, specific ones, so it doesn't get in the way of their, there's some manufacturers send campaign leads. We can make those calls now. And that's all funneled into a different team than our sales BDC now. That's trained differently.
With the inventory challenges of the last couple of years that are ongoing, have you had any dealers that have, because a lot of dealers not only jumped into digital retailing during the pandemic, I think it's that market's cooling off a bit now, but a lot of dealers also started trying to figure out how do we get better at acquiring more used vehicles, specifically a lot of the, buy the private seller vehicle, sell us your car, sell us your car, sell us your car. And we've got a mutual friend that is in the trade-in side of the business that they expanded their tool for a dealer to be able to use it just like that on the site, sell us your car, sell us your car. And there are a handful of tools like that. Question, have any dealers approached you guys and said, hey, we're generating all this interest on sell us your vehicle. Could we put a specific campaign together where you guys would help us engage those people and bring them in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing about data is you can take 2 sets of data and you can combine them and then make sure that you're not hitting certain, the one thing you don't want to do is call all your customers every month, and some of those tools can cause that to happen, or every couple of months you're making the same call to the same person. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong. There's some really sophisticated tools out there, but doing it strategically and targeted is the key. So I said 2 years. I think are you going to miss some deals if you don't call it 1 year? Yes. But how many people buy a car and trade it in a year, right? Yeah. So you're calling all your customers to find those one or two that you might miss. But it's also why it's important to do CSI calls, follow-up calls, and schedule service for those people that trade within 1 year. Because you want them to feel like, hey, I like buying from this place. They take care of me. I know I'll always have a service appointment scheduled. They're always proactive, which is a great word in this, dialogue, because that's what we're talking about. Be proactive with your customers. Don't be reactive, right?
I have a little story I'll share with you on the frequency of a dealership trying to reach out. So, in the last year or so, I have moved because I bought property. I wanted to be closer to this property, and sold our house up in Little Frisco, Texas. And nice. So a dealership that I used to do service work with up there, which is, hour and a half at least away, they have a process where they absolutely have my phone number, and they call me relentlessly, and I can't get them to stop calling me. I've been unsuccessful thus far of getting out of whatever system it is that's automatically calling me. And when they feel like I'm coming up on a particular interval, the frequency escalates to almost one call per day. And what's really frustrating is they don't leave a message. If they don't reach me, it's nothing. But I know it's them because I've their number saved. And
the problem with that is, Sean?
It's almost like
someone
they don't
wants that. No, someone wanted that sequence. And that's somebody that is still probably living back in the 1980s and 70s with that close them all mentality. Let me tell you, opening is the new closing, Sean. It's not about closing people anymore. It's about being there for them nowadays. It's about listening to them. It takes many little commitments to gain a customer. It's not just one time. And you don't want to overdo it and wear that customer out. They say no. They say
good point. That's going to be such a great little marker from this episode, Vinny, because it's so true. Everyone talks about customer experience. I mean, I host a couple of other podcasts with people too, and this topic comes up so much, but what you just said is opening is the new closing. As simple as that is, that's what the customer wants. They want an experience where in the beginning, when you opened this life cycle with me, you did it right. Like you got those, I love it. That's, as I would say, that is deep fried slice of gold. Because that is setting up.
What we're trying to get across through our sales training is with dealers is just give us 10 minutes to chat.
Yeah.
We'll do a free assessment. What do you got to lose? You know what I mean? That's an opening. And we're still going to have people say no to that, which is crazy to me because we're offering free analysis on your dealership. People think, they're going to be biased. No, we're not. Like I just said it at the beginning of the show. I may not want to do business with you. I've met quite a few dealers that after talking to them, I'm like, my poor people would be tortured if I did business with this person. So we don't need every dealer. We have a nice business. We want to grow it, of course, but we know we deliver a very valuable service. We want to continue to add value as much as we can. The value that we've come up with this customer lifecycle journey. I know, Sean, one of the problems I have with Customer Lifecycles Center, I hate the word BDC. Sales BDC is something we do, but it's one piece of that lifecycle.
Yeah.
So now we want to call ourselves a CLC.
Yeah.
Customer Lifecycle Center. We can do the BDC for sales, or you can do it yourself. We can do the inbound BDC for you, or you can do it yourself. We can make calls for you if you want, or you can do it yourself.
It was several years back. I remember, I'll leave their name out of it because they may not want to be mentioned on a podcast, but I remembered talking with a guy who was running marketing at a dealership, And I was really captivated by his approach to social media and what they were doing, both with what they were posting organically and both with what they were doing from a paid or boosted approach. And this was early days of really social media for dealers. And he told me, well, one big thing we did was finally put Facebook in its place. And he showed me kind of a graphic of, the whole scope of what they're trying to do, and Facebook really in its place. And what you're describing right now, tell me if you think that I'm categorizing this incorrectly, but you're basically saying the customer life cycle and being a customer life cycle center, that BDC needs to be put in the right place, and it belongs in this customer life cycle center of a bunch of things that are happening.
Well, BDCs,
that happens
service BDC answering a phone call. If you don't answer the phone call, the cycle never starts.
Yeah.
If you don't answer the lead, you might have the customer come in anyway. But how many times have you called? By the way, most buyers call.
Mm-hmm. I do.
And, if they have questions. Most people that are have a couple quick questions might fill out a lead or something like that. They don't want to call and talk to somebody, or it's not so immediate. But without answering that call or that lead, you stall. Your business stalls right there, and so you got to do that right. And that's why we did that. And that's the hardest part, right? Because I call Sean on a lead, and Sean says, "Well, yeah, I'm looking for this vehicle. Is it available? Yes, it's available. When would you like to drive it? Well, I'm leaving. I'm going out of town tomorrow. I won't be back till next Tuesday. Can you follow up with me next Tuesday and make sure it's still there? Then I'll schedule an appointment with you." Well, yes, we can. And we follow up next Tuesday and we schedule that appointment. Like, it's not that easy to do. Like, someone actually has to organize that customer information and call at the right times. And so the sales BDC stuff is very, very challenging and tough and difficult. And, people are very nervous about buying a car and negotiating and all that stuff. So we train all our people. I mean, Lulu does my training. She's been with me 17 years, like maybe even 18 now. She's awesome, right? And
I know her. Yeah, she's great.
We have 5 other trainers that work for her. My dad listens to phone calls all day long. He's semi-retired, but he's a sales guy, right? Like, so he was in the car business for 40 years. So, everyone here calls him Papa, right? We got a problem, or a dealer says, "Hey, customers complaining about a call we took." We put my father on it. He'll tell you if there's a problem or not. He's not afraid to tell you what's wrong with the car, with the call. And we're not afraid either to say, "Hey, we might have messed that call up a little," or a lot of times we didn't do anything wrong too. So we have all those places. We communicate with our dealers on a daily basis. Multiple times a day through Slack. We tee up opportunities to them all day long. Like, why would you? Matt Bauer says it best. Let me talk to some of these dealers that want to do business with you. Because anyone who doesn't do business with you has got to have rocks in their head. Like, because why would anyone? He's like, why would anyone want to do this work? And I laugh every time he says it. I'm like, not as easy to sell as you make it sound, Matt.
Yeah, but he is certainly one of your, very significant.
We've been together for a long, long time.
Clients, but he gets it. He understands it. That's quite a compliment.
This guy went from selling cars like me to owning, not only auto dealers, but like real estate and all kinds of other crazy stuff. Every time I talk to him, he amazes me at what else he's doing. And he's a lot younger than me, too. Not a lot, maybe like 6 or 7 years younger than me. Yeah. So
the guy's got a great story for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Well, so listen, for the audience, Customer Lifecycle Center sounds like the kind of operation that every single car dealership needs, right? And does BDC fit inside of that? Inbound, outbound, service BDC? Yeah, absolutely. But it's more than just that. And this has been really insightful, Vinny, so it's really great. I think if you look at this, I think we found a pretty good place to park this one.
Yeah.
So regarding this episode, for the audience, if you like it, if you love it, or none of the above, it doesn't matter. We'd still love to hear from you. The Dealer Insights podcast gets better with comments and questions and feedback and recommendations from you. So drop them in the comments section below. Send them to info@Strolid, STROLID, info@Strolid.com. And until next time, stay strong and solid, and you'll never miss.
You'll never miss, baby.